Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 28 of our WWE 2021 Save in TEW 2020. This is Raw for week 3 in August, and this will probably be one of our most significant TV shows thus far in the series, I would say. This is a very jam-packed Raw. There is a lot happening on this show, and it's probably, in some sense, unlike any type of Raw we've had before. So, there's your tease to watch the rest of this episode because I think it's one where there's a lot happening here, and a lot of it certainly going to play into the build to SummerSlam, which we are getting very close to now. So let's jump right in. To the pre-show we go. Reginald, in his first appearance here in our save, I think it's his first actual match. I think he was probably managed by Nia or something, or he managed Nia or vice versa at some point during the series, but his first match here on the pre-show, he loses to Ricochet, who was in the Raw Money in the Bank match at SummerSlam. Ricochet gets the win. Reginald really off his game, so maybe we just haven't used him enough off his game. Ricochet still has that hot new move he's been using for a while now, so that helped a bit. 48, fine with that in the pre-show. And a better pre-show match here, 53. Chad Gable gets the win over Drew Gulak. I was surprised that we actually haven't had these two wrestle before. I figured I would have used this match at some point. On the pre-show, most likely, somewhere along the line, but I checked it, and I have not, so we decided to go with it here. No surprise, pretty good match here, just in terms of, these two guys could go in the ring, so no surprise at all. Gives Gable a little win. He just does not, there's really not a whole lot for him to do right now, as we've said that for a while, but just a lot of other stuff going on. So Chad Gable gets the win on the pre-show, and now we get ready to jump into the main show, and we start with what is going to be a pretty big theme throughout this episode of Raw. And a great 87 angle to start the show here as we find Rey Mysterio and Stone Cold Steve Austin. They are backstage and they find Edge, who is laid out backstage, and so that sends them into a panic. Mysterio finds Edge. He notifies Austin. Austin comes in. And Edge is down and out. Edge has no idea what has happened. He has no idea who attacked him. He has nothing. There are no specifics. He doesn't know what to say. They keep trying to figure out what's going on. Austin is clearly pissed off, and Ray is as well. Good stuff here from everyone. I know, if we're going to keep pointing this out, the announce desk is the problem. Reminder, we're going to fix that at some point very soon. But this is just good stuff. No surprise for this to be such a great segment from a rating standpoint. But Edge is out. And, of course, if you remember back on our previous episode of Raw, we have a big main event scheduled with Edge and Daniel Bryan against Bobby Lashley and Sheamus. However, we go to the next part, which gets an 88, so even better here. Ray benefiting from a hot new catchphrase, so that continues to work for him. Ray wants to replace Edge in the main event. So Rey Mysterio, knowing that this is the match, they're getting Edge the help that he needs backstage. Again, no idea what happened there with him. All they know is they walk in, Edge is laid out. But it's Ray who wants to replace Edge in the main event. So Steve Austin says, well, we got to have a main event. We got to have a tag team match. Daniel Bryan needs a partner. It's got to be Rey Mysterio in the main event now. So it'll be Ray, Daniel Bryan against Bobby Lashley and Sheamus. So we get off to a very interesting start here. And like I said, as you're going to see, there is going to be a common theme throughout this episode of Raw. And you will see it as we start to get into it more. But it is Rey Mysterio now in the main event in the tag team match here on Raw. And that leads into our first match on the show, which gets a 69. Nice rating here. With Big E getting the win over Shelton Benjamin, 11:42. I look back, I don't think these two have actually wrestled for a while. I know we've had this match before, but it's been a little bit, I think probably about a month or so. So we go back to it here, just again, with the depth issues we have really on both shows. We're going to kind of beef up the roster a little bit here after SummerSlam. But it's Big E getting the win over Shelton Benjamin, and Big E has that big match coming up with AJ Styles, who will also be in action here on Raw. And for this episode, though, we kind of keep these two a little away from each other because that's what AJ Styles would prefer, as he's been the one that has seemingly been pretty scared of Big E in recent weeks, although he hasn't wanted to admit it. Big E continues his impressive streak here. Another win, the big ending gets it done, in 11:42 over Shelton Benjamin. Dolph Ziggler, Corey Graves, who does a nice little interview segment here. 52, not great, but Dolph's not really over, so we're not surprised. Dolph has a match coming up with Montez Ford. He says he has unfinished business with Montez Ford and that he is now here to exact revenge on Montez Ford, who beat him, as we know, with Montez getting the win to earn a spot in the Money in the Bank match for Raw at SummerSlam. Dolph wants a rematch, and he's going to get it tonight, and he is going to get his revenge. He promises that to everyone. They will see that Dolph Ziggler is better than Montez Ford, and he's going to make sure everyone knows about it. So, basically a shot sent from Dolph Ziggler to Montez Ford. He wants his revenge, even if he doesn't have that Money in the Bank spot. So, let's see if he gets it. Unfortunately, it is, before we get to that, Sasha Banks getting the win over Liv Morgan. You like that little hype there, that little tease. Sasha Banks gets the win over Liv Morgan again. I know these two have had a match on our series before. Been a little while again with this one. 63 overall. Pretty good match here. These two have worked pretty well, I think, in the couple matches now that they've had on our series. But Sasha building her own momentum as she heads towards SummerSlam. Bayley not in attendance on this show. That is important to know for something that we have coming up later on. But Sasha gets the win, and she continues her winning ways as we head towards SummerSlam for that triple threat match for the Raw Women's title. And speaking of which, Dolph Ziggler promises to get revenge on Montez Ford. Well, now we go backstage. Angelo Dawkins finds Montez Ford laid out in the locker room. Dawkins is trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Now Ford's out. And a 64 rating overall, not bad here. But Montez Ford is out. So, Angelo Dawkins' first thought is, well, they got this match coming up, Ford and Ziggler. Well, what are we going to do with this match now? Well, Dawkins is pissed off. So Dawkins, they get the officials come in. They're helping out Montez Ford. He has no idea what happened. He's yelling. He's saying he has no idea who hit him. All he knows, he got hit from behind. No clue what happened here. And he's trying to just say, he's telling Dawkins he's fine, but he has no idea basically where he is at the moment. He just knows he got knocked in the back of the head, and he has no idea who did it. So that is what we know here about Montez Ford. So Angelo Dawkins decides, well, Ford can't compete. So Dawkins is pissed off. He goes storming out of the locker room, and Angelo Dawkins comes straight to the ring with his sights set on Dolph Ziggler, who, in his eyes, the guilty party here when it comes to Montez Ford being laid out in the locker room. And that leads us into actually a good match here, 60 overall. Dawkins and Ziggler, pretty good chemistry. Well, that's an interesting one. But it is Angelo Dawkins getting the win over Dolph Ziggler in 7:51 using the powerbomb. So Dawkins with his first singles win here in our save. But clearly a very angry Angelo Dawkins takes it out on Dolph Ziggler. So much for Ziggler getting his revenge, at least on one half of the Street Profits. Although, seemingly, if we just put what we know together right now, perhaps he already got his revenge on the other half with Ford out of commission here. But it's Dawkins getting his revenge, I guess you could say, on Dolph Ziggler here. And 60 overall, we're getting pretty good chemistry here. So maybe this is something we could go to eventually down the line again at some point. But Dawkins gets the win. And very interesting setup there as another replacement here on this show due to someone being attacked backstage. And that leads us to a big promo here as Goldberg, who we saw make his return on the previous episode of Raw. 75 overall here, good stuff. Improvised, good, all that. And cuts a promo, hyping his match with Kevin Owens. We saw Goldberg come back on the previous episode of Raw, answered Kevin Owens' open challenge, although they didn't have the match then. Goldberg basically, says he wants his shot at Owens. And he explains here the reason why is he wants his career. He remembers the first big moment of his career was winning the United States title, which came in WCW. He remembers that moment. He wants to finish his career with how he started it, and that is he wants to win the United States title. He knows he doesn't have many more matches left, but he wants one more shot at the belt that gave him a chance to become one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling. So that's the explanation for Goldberg. He wants the U.S. title. He wants to remember back to that day, when basically his career got jump-started. During the streak, won the U.S. title in WCW. Now he wants that chance to have that title back and perhaps finish his career once and for all with the belt that sort of made him, I guess you could say, a made man in wrestling. So really good promo here from Goldberg, setting up a little intrigue heading into what, we're probably going to get will be Goldberg and Kevin Owens at SummerSlam for the United States title. So a really good segment here. Good stuff from Goldberg. And that leads into a match with AJ Styles versus Akira Tozawa. 7:55. Styles gets the win. 66 overall. Not bad. But again, Styles building, up for that big match against Big E. That's a big singles match we have for SummerSlam in the works. And so, yeah, these two kind of stay away from each other on this show. But they both get wins, so both continue their momentum as we move forward. But it is AJ Styles getting the win over Akira Tozawa, we put Tozawa in with anyone, it seems like, and he always has a good match. We talked about it early in the series, how Tozawa has great chemistry with Bobby Lashley. So Tozawa working well with anyone. Good stuff here from him, but it's Styles, the victor. And backstage, Sasha Banks, we noted earlier, Bayley not in attendance, but Banks is backstage, regrouping from her big win earlier against Liv Morgan, and Io Shirai shows up, and they're in each other's face, arguing all over the place. We got a full-on brawl between Sasha and Io Shirai here. Road agents, staff, they all have to do the pull-apart brawl here, but more heat going on here in this little feud we have between these three in particular. Banks and Shirai, though, they are the ones getting into it here, and 62 overall, fine segment. Even though we lose heat with the Raw Women's title triangle, that's okay. We needed to put something on the show related to our big match at SummerSlam, and this is what we wanted to do. But no Bayley to help Sasha here, but a bit of a brawl between these two to just build even more heat heading into that three-way match at SummerSlam. And it's Cesaro getting a win over Dominic Dijak here, 10:01, as Cesaro 66 overall. We have a lot of solid matches on this show. Nothing that's really just, been huge, stand out, everything kind of in that upper 60 type range. That's okay, because I think our angles are going to ultimately be, what kind of brings us up to a pretty good overall show rating. But Cesaro gets a win over Dijak. This is another match I think we had probably about a month and a half ago, I think, on the series. So we stayed away from it. We didn't do the quick rematches. It took a little while to get back to this one, but the result is the same, as Cesaro gets the win over Dijak. 66 overall. Cesaro takes another step towards, getting ready for the Money in the Bank match at SummerSlam. So just a jam-packed Money in the Bank match at SummerSlam. But as we've seen, some of the competitors have been knocked down and out here. And let's see if that continues. It does, because Stone Cold Steve Austin, he finds Ricochet backstage. Austin walking around, all of a sudden Ricochet is down. He's out. So Ricochet has been laid out as well. So as you can see, there is a common theme here when it comes to this Money in the Bank ladder match for Raw at SummerSlam. Now, just on this show, we've had 3 different competitors get knocked out, although different circumstances, perhaps, when you look at Montez Ford and everything that's going on. There's a lot of confusion, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, Ricochet looked lost out there, and we didn't put this on a script, because when we tried to script it, Austin said he didn't want to be scripted, so we didn't want to make Stone Cold unhappy. So if we scripted it, probably would have got a couple points better, but it is what it is. I'm not really concerned about it. But Austin finds Ricochet attacked backstage, so there's another kind of interesting, nugget here of what is going on exactly here on Raw, because there have been a lot of strange things that have happened on the show. But like we said, some can perhaps be explained, some perhaps cannot be explained. We have nothing more on the Ricochet one. All we know is Ricochet, also, no idea who attacked him. Says he can't figure it out. He tells Austin he's got no idea. All he knows is, he got attacked from behind. That's all he can tell you. And we could all kind of joke and say, well, perhaps it was Austin that attacked Ricochet, because if we look at the emails and such that we've had on this series, Austin doesn't like Ricochet. So perhaps we should point the finger on this one at Stone Cold Steve Austin. But then again, I guess it could be anyone in the locker room, because as we always say, the big joke is everyone hates Ricochet. So if you just look at our emails that we get each and every week, it seems like no one likes Ricochet for some reason. So the list of suspects for this one in particular could be pretty wide. But once again, a very interesting turn of events here as Ricochet also attacked backstage. He's down and out. We've got chaos here on this episode of Raw, and let's see what is next, which we know what's going to be next. And that is our main event, where it is Bobby Lashley and Sheamus getting the win over Daniel Bryan and Rey Mysterio in 17-13-76. Good match here. Lashley gets the pin on Rey Mysterio with the spear after we get botched interference from Edge, who accidentally hits Rey Mysterio with the spear. Daniel Bryan carries the match in terms of in-ring performance. So good stuff here from Daniel Bryan. 86, I mean, this guy's just, as we know, he's fantastic. He's leading into this big match at SummerSlam for the championship. But the bigger thing was, as we said, Rey replaces Edge. Edge, basically coming out. He looks like he's just, kind of bobbling all over the place. He just doesn't look himself. Like, Edge is just kind of off. He's been attacked. He just doesn't look like the Edge we're used to. And then that leads to Edge going after Bobby Lashley. The referee is, distracted with something else. Edge goes to hit Lashley with the spear. Instead, Lashley with a little shenanigans, and he pulls Rey Mysterio in front of him. That leads to Edge hitting Rey with the spear. So mostly, Lashley's fault here for the spear seemingly hitting Rey. So we're going to blame the champ, Lashley, outsmarting everyone once again. But Edge trying to help out his friend, but clearly Edge was not 100% coming out here and hitting Rey Mysterio. That leads to Lashley getting the pin. But that is not the last of our friend Edge, because Edge pissed off. Like, he is completely angry of how, basically he has caused Rey, to lose this match by botching the spear attempt, and that allows Lashley to get the win. So Edge is pissed, and apparently Edge is so pissed that he's going to take it out on Lashley and Sheamus. Edge grabs a chair, and he just hauls off on Bobby Lashley and Sheamus. And, this is a great segment. 88 overall, ties for our best one thus far. Everything looking good here. So Edge, angry, just full of anger, full of rage. He's just decided to take it out on Lashley and Sheamus, because everything that's happened to him on this particular episode, everything that's kind of led up to this, clearly Edge unhappy. So we've got destruction all over this show. You've got people getting attacked everywhere. You got people getting attacked with chairs. People brawling backstage. Like, all hell has broke loose on this episode of Raw. And again, it's Edge taking out his frustration seemingly on Bobby Lashley and Sheamus after that clearly, a botched interference attempt in the main event. So Edge, I don't know, maybe that, whatever, he got hit in the head or whatever it was, but Edge is not happy. And then that is not it, though, because Edge has something to say. 81 overall here for this one. Edge grabs the mic, and he is just fuming. He is shaking, very upset, and Edge calls out the one and only Randy Orton, and Edge accuses Orton of everything that's happened to him on this show, getting attacked. He thinks it was Orton, and he blames Orton for, Edge basically actually hitting his friend, Rey Mysterio, and just really goes off on Orton here, and he tells Orton that he's the reason all of this has happened with him. He's the reason that Edge had to snap and go off on Lashley and Sheamus, and that he wants to settle this with Randy Orton once and for all, and he tells Orton to show up next week. So Edge placing the blame on Randy Orton, who we have not seen in a long time here on our save, but Edge calls out Orton, tells him to show up next week, and that was that. And what a wild episode of Raw. A lot of twists and turns, a lot happening. As we joked about, a lot of destruction on this show. We have got a lot of loose ends all over the place here, with just a bunch of things happening here on this episode of Raw. And I think that it wound up doing a 79, pretty good show here, increasing our popularity in 18 regions. But really across the board, when you look here, aside from a couple things, like everything kind of stayed in that 60 to 70. And then, of course, our big segments really paid off. Really everything, that had Edge in it really just paid off in a pretty big way. So that's it. That we kind of book in the show again, like we like to do, as we start off with a big hook with this in particular, and then it leads to the final segment where we have not seen Randy Orton in a long time. Edge calls him out, and away we go here, as we will only have one episode of Raw left before we head into SummerSlam, and a lot of intrigue, and like I said, a very significant episode of Raw. Let's see what we need to get to before we wrap it up. And Raw, of course, excellence, struck gold. We're striking a lot of gold. We keep saying it. That's good. On the road to SummerSlam. And let's see what we got email-wise. Our direct test fees. Raw gets a 3.69. I'm not exactly sure where that range is for us. Of course, we still got the one email there. We've got some decisions here as our contract negotiations with Adam Cole. Thank goodness he's seemingly not leaving us for AEW. 3-year deal we've got for Adam Cole. We're paying him a lot of money per month, and upon signing, we are actually going to send him back to NXT for now, and so we will complete that signing. Bobby Roode signing there as well. Of course, Bobby Roode already on the main roster, 2-year deal for Bobby Roode, and then we've got Jenny, who is in the NXT UK. So those are our signings that we're going to bring back there. 3 people in particular, of course, the biggest of all, I think, of Adam Cole. Keeping him from going to AEW, that's significant, but again, a very significant episode of Raw, a lot happening, and we will see. That I think there's plenty of teases heading into Raw for the next one, and then, of course, as we said, we built up a lot for SummerSlam now, so the Raw side of things continues to just get better and better, I think, and SmackDown will be up next as we will see what the fallout is as we head into our big main event of SummerSlam, which will be Roman Reigns versus John Cena. We will see what else is going to happen on SmackDown. That will be the next episode, but as always, be sure to subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff, and keep the great feedback coming. Hopefully, as I said, glad we're back now, and I think, the road to SummerSlam, I think, as you will probably be able to tell, getting more and more interesting, but I think once we actually get to SummerSlam, it is going to just be... It's going to be a lot of fun. I will say that. I think it's going to be worth the wait, and I think our SummerSlam show is just going to, be the biggest thing we've certainly ever done on this series thus far. We may even do a little bit of a mini preview for SummerSlam. Usually we go straight from Raw to SmackDown to the pay-per-views and so forth, but we may actually do a little preview video to really set the stage for what we're going to have for SummerSlam. But we'll get to that here in several episodes, but now we are down to 3 episodes to go before we get to SummerSlam, and like I said, maybe 4 if we do the little preview. That may be the case, but we won't spread those out too much because SummerSlam is getting close. And on the next episode, it will be August Week 3 edition of SmackDown.